Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, in honor of World Down Syndrome Day, coming up March 21st, we're featuring the amazing Abigail Adams. She's a Down syndrome advocate, triathlete, keynote speaker, and influencer, a remarkable individual whose journey embodies resilience, determination, and triumph. Abigail has an impactful narrative that inspires and challenges preconceived notions about individuals with disabilities. She aims to demystify stigmas surrounding Down syndrome and really advocates for disability awareness and inclusion. Abigail was born with Down syndrome and has faced many challenges, yet she has broken barriers with an unwavering spirit. Now, each year, about 6,000 babies are born with Down syndrome in the United States. It's the most common chromosomal disorder in America. Today, we're joined by Amy Kennedy, Education Director of the Kennedy Forum, where she pursues partnerships and collaborations that emphasize evidence based research and programming to facilitate policy change in the areas of education and mental health. Today, they join me to help demystify stigmas surrounding disabilities and aim to raise awareness to promote inclusion in the workplace and in our schools in honor of World Down Syndrome Day. Welcoming now to the show are my dear friends, Amy and Abigail. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Abigail, so nice to see you again. Amy, welcome back. Let's get started. Abigail, how do you believe society's perception of individuals with disabilities, particularly Down syndrome, has evolved over the years, and what progress have you witnessed?
Yes, we are more included.
I think it's gotten better in a lot of ways, where people are more aware, people are more inclusive.
What would you like to see changed to make it better for you?
People can help, like being involved. Volunteer to help. You should give back to the community too.
That's right.
And speak up for yourself.
I think we're on the right track. I think that the inclusion is definitely the first step. Awareness and inclusion go hand in hand. I think a lot of people are don't know anybody with a disability. They don't know how to react, and they a lot of times people with Down syndrome or other disabilities are sidelined because people really don't know what to do. So the more often a person with cognitive disability is included in an activity that typical people are included in, the more likely that person is to act typically and to talk typically and to have a typical life.
You're so right. Abigail, you have been working on your brand for quite some time, and you finally have the perfect motto. Please share it with us.
Retry, be confident, and help others.
And what is your slogan?
No excuses.
I love it. And now I'm going to pivot to Amy because this is her area of expertise. Amy, as an educator, by training, you have more than a decade of experience working in public schools in New Jersey, and your experience as a teacher and also as a mama of 5 really propel your efforts and your advocacy around social emotional learning and mental wellness for children and adolescents. Now, that being said, as the education director of the Kennedy Forum, can you tell us about some of the initiatives or programs you're involved in to promote inclusion and awareness of disabilities, especially in educational settings?
Yeah, sure. It's the common struggle that I think all young people are dealing with, and that's isolation. So, how do we address that not only broadly, but more specifically in the IDD community? Because we know that when people feel included, it benefits not only the individual with the disability, but the classroom as a whole. So, being able to integrate that into all schools uh, through the way the classroom is structured, but also through programs like Unified Schools or Best Buddies programs that are brought to schools, allows all students in the school to create those relationships and really learn from one another. It is about deepening that experience for the students, because we know that there's so much that we can get out of that social emotional learning, and to be able to have that experience begin as early as possible in schools changes everybody's stigma and experience as adults as well.
Well said. And that's why you are in the position you are, to identify all these areas and these pockets, piece the puzzle together, and really present the roadmap for inclusion, because it's of the utmost importance, especially to families like Abigail's. Now, Abigail, your story is incredibly inspiring, my dear. Could you share a specific moment that stands out to you as a testament to your resilience and determination?
I was proud of doing the Seminole County Hall of Fame and to be the first woman with Down syndrome to complete a sprint triathlon in the world.
That is quite impressive. Can you tell me something that other people thought you couldn't do, but you did it anyway, and not the triathlon, something else?
I do modeling, acting, gymnastics.
Just like everyone else.
Yes, it's like anyone else.
There you go.
And public speaking too.
I see you on Instagram. You have a lot of followers, and a lot of people look up to you and all of your accomplishments. So I just wanted to point out how many admirers you do have. Now, Amy, could you shed some light on the importance of evidence-based research in shaping policies related to education and mental health um, that you're involved in?
Yeah, I think first of all, Abigail, congratulations. That's incredible. And it reminds me of the fact that Special Olympics, for example, has a healthy athletes program. And when we think about health and IDD, it is not just physical health. It is also mental health, social emotional well-being. But in the United States and around the world, there is a workforce shortage and a lack of training in co-occurring disorders and in dual diagnoses. So there's very few people who are trained in this. And because of that, we see that there is a pharmacology first response instead of looking for non pharmacological supports, which is the evidence base. We should be introducing those things first when we're looking at the social emotional well being of young people. So, being able to increase the training, looking at all parts of the whole person, everything from training for triathlons to how are you feeling? Are you lonely? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? The same type of screening that we're looking for in schools has to happen not only in elementary school and high school, but also for our athletes as well.
Well said. Well said. And it begins really at the beginning, because the importance of evidence-based research to shape these policies related to education and mental health, particularly the ones that concern individuals with disabilities, are often the ones that are overlooked. So being at the forefront of that is extremely important. So thank you for pointing that out and staying really at staying on your A game, because it takes people like you to continue this. Now, Abigail, you're not just an advocate, but you're also, as you said, a triathlete, an influencer, a career gal, right? How do you think your achievements in sports and social media have contributed to changing the perceptions about Down syndrome and disabilities in general?
It gives them confidence and hope. They think it's a possibility for their children to do that too. And they felt inspired too.
Of course, right? And proud of yourself to have the whole world cheering you on. And that's what's happening. You've created such an amount of community advocacy in your favor in the last couple of years. And I've watched you grow, and you've done a phenomenal job. And you're only going to keep growing and becoming better at what you do. So, congratulations. Now, Amy, what are some practical steps, so to speak, that workplaces and schools can take to create a more inclusive environment for people with disabilities?
Hiring practices have to change. I mean, that's a number one priority of the organization Best Buddies that I mentioned. We want to see hiring for a variety of jobs and at the wages that are on par for others doing those jobs. So, you know, oftentimes we see in the IDD community, 85% of individuals are unemployed. So that transition from high school to career is really difficult. So being able to make sure that we are looking at all candidates, that we are identifying career paths within companies, and that when they are hired, we have the insurance in place that covers all of the things that are needed, that the supports will be there, and that the coverage has a level of parity for any mental health and physical health needs of individuals. And we will see it again, we see that it benefits companies. The most common jobs held currently are in maintenance, packaging, stock person, sales clerk, food prep. Those are the types of jobs we want to find even more of a selection and variety for individuals with disabilities, and make sure that that employment is on par for those with disabilities, because we know that it's possible, and that the companies that are doing this, you can find quite a few that are really leaders in this space, that they're benefiting, and that the consumer who either shops at that store, or that the bottom line at the end of the day for the company is benefiting.
Amazing that you are putting this in the narrative. Now, people with Down syndrome, for those listening, have an extra chromosome. The nucleus of a typical cell contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 total, and each of these chromosomes determines something about you, from your hair color to your sex. And people with Down syndrome have an extra copy or partial copy of chromosome 21. Now, just to clarify that. Now, Abigail, what message do you hope to convey to those who may still hold misconceptions or stigmas about Down syndrome or disabilities?
Well, I think people would say, you can't do this, you can't do that. They don't think I can do triathlons.
Right, but at the end of the day, you can pretty much do it all.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
it all.
I think let me just chime in. And I'll say, Amy, you hit the nail on the head of several ideas that I wanted to bring up. The unified partners makes a world of difference. I think it's something that we saw in school. Abigail started at a typical state elementary school. It didn't work out. Went to private school. Things became more inclusive. She went to high school, was involved in a number of things. What were the things you were involved
3
in?
years in high school.
Yeah, 3 years in high school.
I was a sophomore, junior, and senior. But even those in 3 years, I was doing a cheerleading varsity.
Yeah, she's on the varsity squad, chair. The and the inclusion part that we're talking about is the people who were inclusive were the very best athletes. The varsity cheerleaders are the ones who have the confidence, and so it's important to give them that opportunity. And it's like you said, we've got the whole classroom benefits and the individuals with disabilities benefit. And I think just as importantly, the community becomes more aware, because when we go to the football games and you see the inclusion, when you see the people that are excelling and have typical cognitive abilities are the ones that are participating, it's a home run for everybody.
Yeah, without a doubt. And when you look at Abigail's history, she's seamlessly transitioned into the corporate world. She's aligned herself with iconic brands such as Nike and Adidas and Starbucks and National Women's Soccer League and Disney. Hold on, I'm forgetting Procter and Gamble and
Yeah.
Google. Her impact extends beyond personal achievement. It really redefines the landscape of endorsements and shatters the very stereotypes that we're talking about. Bringing me into this next question, Amy, in your work at the Kennedy Forum, what role do you see policy advocacy playing in advancing the rights and opportunities for individuals with disabilities?
Policy is so crucial. Everything from IDEA to looking at what the path will be for school based services when it comes to mental health, knowing that access is so challenging for individuals with developmental disabilities, knowing that that could be addressed right within the school where oftentimes bullying and a lack of inclusion is happening. We have to be able to tackle that through policy changes and through funding measures that are going to um, help stop this early. Because when we see that lack of screening that I mentioned, it would be so much easier if we were doing that where kids are. So to be able to implement that early, to be able to implement that at those transition points is extremely helpful. The policies that we'll see going forward is what's going to be covered under Medicaid, what's going to be covered under Medicare when it comes to the health needs and mental health needs for the long term. And also, policy wise, how are we supporting caregivers? Because
Right.
we know that this is a long term plan and we have to have enough support for caregivers that they're able to continue to be part of the workforce and not deal with burnout and stress that can also come from caregiving duties.
Well said. Abigail and Steve, you're both actively involved in promoting awareness and inclusion. Amy is doing her part behind the scenes with Congress and aligning herself with the institutions that will help put this into actualization for you and your communities. What can individuals do to help contribute to a more inclusive society for people with disabilities?
Well, go ahead, Abigail.
Volunteer to help.
Yeah, I think that's really the key. If we can uh, have the community involved, it's one of the keys. Is people are sidelined who have the disability. There are a world of people who are waiting for an opportunity to help, but they don't know how to do it. And I think that what Abigail and I are trying to do with the social media and with the other promotions, with the businesses and the speaking around the country, is to make people aware that yeah, Down syndrome is not what you expected, but it's also not what you fear. And so uh, don't let what's your name of your speech,
Uh,
Abigail?
don't let anyone's low expectations limit your success.
Yeah. See, we are conditioned from decades of textbooks that tell us that people with disabilities can't function, and so they should be marginalized and shouldn't be included. And I think that's just the opposite of the direction we need to go. We need to make it a point to. We can't expect anyone to do everything. Nobody's going to be able to be successful at everything, but we have to give them the opportunity. We have to give them the confidence and the platform to do that. And that's why it's Abigail the Advocate. Is it we want people to see that there are many obstacles that we all have, and that they can be overcome if you focus on something that you're good at. And what do? You get better at it.
Yes, you
Yeah.
have to get better at it.
Mhm.
Well said. Well, we are out of time. Thank you
Okay.
both so much for joining, Amy. It was such a pleasure. Your insight is priceless. I love how you articulate everything and how you are so committed to the educational mental health process and inclusion. Um, advocacy here, especially not just in New Jersey, but really just across the country. Your work does not go unnoticed, my dear.
Oh, thanks for covering this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut in honor of World Down Syndrome Day, coming up March 21st. That was the incredible Abigail Adams, Down syndrome advocate, triathlete, keynote speaker, and influencer. You could head directly to her website at abigailtheadvocate.com, and do check out our dear friend Amy Kennedy, regular contributor at thekennedyforum.org, or you can check her out on the gram at Amy Kennedy 715. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, 100% pure coconut water. Imagine a drink that's nutrient-rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Enter Once Upon a Coconut, the absolute best tasting coconut water you will ever try. Available in 4 refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick up some today at onceuponacoconut.com.